All right, I want to walk through really quickly kind of spreadsheet 5. We've done pieces of this on spreadsheets, both last class and this class. I just kind of want to put it all together in going through spreadsheet 5, just as a reminder for you. So to get to spreadsheet 5, there's a lot of ways to do it. I think the easiest one, we're in week 7, so we'll go to our content in our week 7. And the reason I like that is because it tends to be a way to get the spreadsheet out of D2L, which is a problem for me if it's not. So we scroll down here. I always pretty much try to have, if I have a link to something, I try to have it kind of in the description so that if you click and open a new tab, it'll actually open up outside of D2L. All right. Now, obviously, as always, the first thing we need to do is make a copy. I need to do this as well because I don't want to change this for everyone. I'm going to be able to write on this without it doing that for all of you, so I need to make my copy as well. And let's see here, we'll go to my Math 98. All right, and we'll call this, I'll just title it Ross Fulbert spreadsheet. Okay, and we click. All right, so it's going to open that new one up. Let me close the old one so I don't type on there. And as always, there's going to be two pieces, the homework, which you're going to do on your own, and the together, which we're going to do together. So you're going to have some stuff where you're finding the median mode and the standard deviation, and then you're going to ask some questions that we have. And then we're going to have a margin of error, which happens to be, now I realize why that example I did in class looks so familiar, because that's pretty much the exact same thing. So together, we're going to do the together part now, where you can kind of have that as a template and guide you, and then do the other one on your own. So I have the formulas here for these. And so our average, our mean is our average. So we can go in here, and we can do it a number of different ways. So I will kind of do this different ways for each one of these. So equals, we can type average, A, V, E, or up, there's average there. So you can click on the right one. So average. This is in my way from highlighting my range. So there's this little minimize if you want. I can minimize that. And then I can just drag what I want. Notice it's filling that. You can see it up here as well, that it's filling in my range. And you actually don't need to close the parentheses. You can just do enter. And there it goes. Now I don't want to autofill because we're doing different things each time. So again, you can always click on here, look up here to see, is this what you want? And if you click on that, notice it highlights the range that we have. So if I accidentally did one too many or one too short, it can kind of let me see that. Now, standard deviation, there are lots and lots of standard deviations, different types. The one we did in class, the type we're doing is this population one, standard dev.p for population. So we can just type that in. So dot stdev dot p, and then I'm going to do parentheses, and then I'm just going to drag through my whole kind of range here. And again, you don't have to close the parentheses. It kind of figures it out. Well, that number is really obnoxious. So let me reduce my decimals up here to make it something a little, there we go, 27.9. That's good. All right. So what that's basically telling us here is that the average, that kind of middle ground in terms of values, if you had kind of consistency, if every score of atoms was the same, it'd be the equivalent if you got 60 every time. That's what his current kind of score is here. And our standard deviation being 27.1. So if we go down 27.1, so that's what, 32.9, and up 27.1, so that's 87.1. That means that we can be confident that about 68% of atom scores are between, I say, 32.9 and 68.1%, right? And then the next standard deviation is that 95% of scores will be out 60 minus twice this 27.1, or 60 plus twice that, right? Now, for median, that means that half the scores are above, half the scores are below. So for that, we just type in median, M-E-D-I-A-N. n, and then we'll see parentheses, and then we'll just drag that and get our range and enter. So we get 16. Now mode is a little bit tricky with the computer. So I have it written kind of over here. The regular mode function, if there's a mode, so if there's no mode, you get like this NA thing. And that's either because everything's repeated the same number of times, or nothing's repeated. You're going to get the NA. If there's one mode or more than one modes, it only gives you with mode, it just gives the first one it comes across, the first one back. Maybe the lowest one, maybe the first one that occurs in the range. I'm not sure, but it only gives, only gives one answer. Mode mult actually gives you more, but its downside is that if there is more than one mode, it prints it below. So if there's 3 modes, it would take all these cells. So you got to kind of allow for that. That's why I left some space down here. And there's a whole YouTube video you can watch on kind of how to do that. So I'm going to do the mode multi here, just the mult mode or whatever, mode mult, to show you that. So literally we just type in what we have here, equals, because it's a function. So we start with that function, mode.mult, M-U-L-T for a multi-mode. Again, we just do our range. So from there to there we go. And we'll hit enter. Okay. Now in this case, you can see that 50 is the only one that looks like it occurs twice. So it's fine. Okay. Now if nothing occurs, let me just change this. And this is what's cool about using formulas. If I change one thing, it dynamically will change all these values. So just to show you how that can change. See now how, see how it says NA, because nothing occurs more than anything else. In this case, everything occurs just once. Okay, let's undo that because we'll go back to what we had. All right, over here though, we want to do the same thing. And notice the cells, like this is, row 16 through 24. That's row 16 through 24. These are all row 28 to 31. So if I just highlight these and copy them using Control C for a PC or Command C for a Mac and paste, what this is going to do is it's going to give me the average of the cells. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then all these above it like that. 1, 2, 3, all. So it's going to give you that standard deviation of all those. So it's going to give you standard deviation of those. So it's kind of nice. So I can just hit enter. Oops, wait, that's not what I want. I can just hit, highlight. Control C. Let's Control V for paste. And in this case, notice 70, 60, and 50 both occur twice. Now, one thing is when I first did the spreadsheet, I actually had this at 61. If that's 61, if that's 60, I had that at 60. So if that was 60, you can see that 70, or in this case, actually 60 occurs 3 times, the others are twice. So that's why it's only one mode. So that's why it's giving me this answer of just 60. I want to change that to 61. And the reason for that then is that notice there's 3 modes. Both 50, 60, and 70 occur twice. So it printed 3 times. It needs 2. Sorry. Mowgli, no bark. So it printed the 2 lines well. So you got to kind of allow for that space. All right. So that may be slightly off. Let's go through and make this look right. Maybe we'll just approximate, and so that you can answer the next question down here. All right. So that's multi-node. I just want you to be aware of that, because otherwise I've had some in the past that have kind of used the software to find mode and gotten it wrong because they only found the first one because they just used mode. All right. So I want you to answer this question of why, how can you have 2 things with the same median, the same mode, but very different standard deviations, and what does that mean? And of course, the idea, remember, standard deviation is measuring spread. Okay, one is much more spread out than the other one. That's probably what that would mean. And so To answer the question, if you double click on the box, it'll kind of open up this drawing thing, and you can click somewhere down here and just type in your response and then save and close. And it'll be there, and I'll be able to see it when you turn it in. All right. So far, so good, hopefully. For the, oops, hang on. All right, hang on, I'm recording something for a class. So for the margin of error, we kind of went through this just on a blank spreadsheet. I want to just kind of go through it here so we can see what's going on. Okay. So hang tight, please, with me, and I'll be right with you. Okay. Okay. So if we have a recent survey of 617 people, so what's out of 1,600 faculty? So the 617 is going to be my sample size out of 1,600. So that's going to be my total population. We found that 76 were vaccinated. Now 76 then is going to be my p-hat. And we can either type 0.76 and make it a percent. The other thing you can do is if you just type in 76% and enter, the software already automatically go, oh, that's what you want this thing to be. So kind of like we did in class, we just need to kind of write out this formula. So the margin of error, we always start with an equals for any function. And remember, it was 2 times the square root, which is SQRT. In fact, you can kind of see it's telling you that. Parentheses. Now, to get that numerator where we have the p-hat minus, or times 1 minus p-hat, we're going to need a second parentheses so that we're dividing by that whole numerator. And I kind of showed that in class if you go to the class recording. So we don't type in actual numbers because that way if we change something here, it'll change everything. So we have the 76 times parentheses 1 minus, we want that same 76%, right? And notice when we close that, see it's highlighting to show that we're closing this parenthesis. I want to close so I have the whole top or numerator. See, that's all this stuff. So then we can divide by my sample size, which was 617. And if I close that parentheses, notice now, see how it's highlighting, and it does it up here too, that it's capturing all that within the function. And if we hit enter, now we get our margin of error. Let's change that to a parentheses. So we have this margin error of 3.44%. So what that's telling us is that with 95% confidence, we know that between 76 minus 3.44% of faculty are vaccinated and 76 plus 3.44% of faculty are vaccinated. Let's again let the software do all the kind of the math for us. So let's do that over here. So the low percentage is going to be our p-hat, our 76%, minus our margin of error. And that's what that plus or minus thing is. So minus the margin of error, and we'll just click on that. And then we don't want autofill. And then our high is going to be the same idea, but plus. So it's going to be 76% plus our margin of error. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit more accurate. So I'm going to increase my decimal places. That's probably good. So with 95% confidence, because we surveyed 617 of the faculty, we know that between 72.6% and 79.4% of faculty at PCC are vaccinated. This is, by the way, a real survey that was done about a week ago. And I saw an email, so that's what I did. Now, to find out, that doesn't do me as much good as maybe knowing exactly how many people are vaccinated. So that, what we have is 72.6% of my total population, which is the 1,600. And remember, of is multiplication. So what we have is 72.6% of, or times, the total population, which we typed in over here. So we click on that and enter. we get this 1160. And the next one equals, the high is going to be 79.4% of or times my total population. So you can kind of see the formula there, and it equals. Now, I don't really want a part of a people, so I'm going to kind of decrease my decimals to a whole person. And there we go. So now, with 95% confidence, we know that between 1161 and 1271 of the roughly 1,600 faculty at PCC are in fact now vaccinated, again, as of last week. Okay, so that's how this works. Remember, if you're doing the together part, which you have to do, you can always go back to this one, click here, and it will show you your equations. You can, if you click up here, notice it highlights to show exactly what it's multiplying here, right? So same thing here. You go up here, click, and it's showing you exactly what each thing is, all right? So when you go through, first answer these questions, and like I said, double click on there, and then go through, do the same thing on your own, finding these exact same things, answer the questions by double clicking, right, and then typing, then you can save and close. And then the same thing with the margin error. And you can see that's where in class, when I did that example on paper about how many students might have a smartphone. You can see that. All right, so I hope that helps. And go for it. And then once you're done with both parts, remember you have to do both parts. Once you're done with that, go ahead and turn it in the spreadsheet in your assignment. Thank you.